the league MVP. Lamar Jackson in his second year was the league MVP. Let's say Jaden Daniels even plays just that well again. Do the Commanders right now pose the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the NFC?
I've got to agree with Orlovsky because he's bringing up lines of scrimmage, okay? And that's where it all is. Do I love the Tunzel sign? Yes, but you run for 230 yards in the NFC Championship game. You lose by 30 points, and we're talking about a Philadelphia Eagle team. Dan mentioned the roster and how deep they are. Of course, you're going to lose people when you win the championship. The Commanders, yes, they're there. I mean, it's a quality football team. I mean, things had to happen for them to get where they were, but to just think it's going to happen again is just overlooking the sight of how special that season was by Jaden Daniels, fellas.
What do you think, D. Wood?
Rams.
Rams?
Yeah, Rams. Like, I look at when the Rams got healthy last year, particularly along the offensive line, that's when they really started getting cranked up. Okay, Kyron Williams was running with authority. That defense, especially that defensive line with Jared Verse and Braden Fitz, like the Rams, they play some bully ball in the line down in the trenches. So for me, I'm picking the Rams over the Commanders.
Let's see the picks. I asked everybody for their. Here we go. So
I went with Detroit. I mean, I'd like to see the new. I mean, losing both coordinators, of course, is big, but Detroit still. Let's go. Line of scrimmage.
I was going to say.
They're still going to be strong
Teddy,
there.
it's the division. It's the whole division.
Talking about offensive lines.
The NFC North is going to be absolutely absurd because Detroit's going to be very good. Minnesota's going to be very good. Green Bay's going to be very good. And Chicago, who was the worst team last year, could be having the best offseason out of any team in the NFL.
Yes.
And Graziano, you still a buyer in Detroit?
Yeah, I think we have short memories. We tend to forget how good Detroit was this year. And yes, the coaching staff turnover is worth watching. But if you believe in Dan Campbell and his ability to put a staff together, you feel good about that. And if we're going to talk offensive lines, this is still the cream of the crop, right?
Yes.
It's them or Philadelphia. So I think that travels for sure. And don't forget, Orlovsky, the rules say the Eagles can't win the NFC East next year.
That is true.
Because they won it this year.
How many years in a row?
20 years. 20 years.
Yeah, Dan Graziano, you also said that Saquon Barkley wouldn't be a difference maker for the Philadelphia Eagles and that he wasn't proven running back to be a difference maker for any team. So, yeah, don't care. But, no, listen, I think it's fair. I think you have to put the Commanders up there because they're in the division with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so I think if you're going to play them in the playoffs, obviously I know the Commanders got rocked by the Eagles. I've already made a separate video recently talking about that. But I do think that when you're playing in the playoffs against a divisional rival, that's always a somewhat unsettling feeling because we know, heck, even the Raiders are playing the Chiefs close and whatnot. Dak Prescott was like, "Oh, we're close to the Philadelphia Eagles," and it's like, bro, you haven't even been to an NFC Championship game, and the Eagles have now been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2 since you've entered the league, so you're not close. But yet he still has beaten the Eagles, right? So it's just like playoffs, against divisional opponents are always going to be something of a concern. That's just the reality of the situation. You're going to be playing in that team now for a third time. Right, like that does mean something. It just does. Not to mention, you also don't necessarily get, depending on who's hosting the team, you don't even get like a true as much of a home field advantage because, like, again, having the Rams have to travel cross country is a lot different than the Commanders having to hop on a bus or a train or however they travel to Philly. Like, it's just going to be different, quite frankly. It just is. Or like a dome team having to now play outside or, whatever it is. So I think even that home field then kind of can get minimized. They have experience, obviously, playing on the road against that team regularly. So I do think that those are all kind of wild cards and factors that I think, you would have to put the Commanders up there. I do think, listen, the Lions, for me, if I wasn't making videos and whatnot, I would really just say that the Lions to me are more of a wait and see team. But I have to imagine they're going to take a step back. I just don't see how you lose. I just don't see how you can lose a Ben Johnson and think that offense is going to be just as great. Because if that was the case, then Ben Johnson added nothing to this offense. And if you believe that, then I don't know what to tell you. And if that ends up being the case, then we're saying that coaches just don't matter. And we just know that that's just not true. And I mean, it would be epic and historic if the two coaches that the Lions replaced ended up being great and another caliber, truly great, high level, also head coach caliber, coaches. Like that would be remarkable. That would be remarkable. But I think Jared Goff's going to take a step back now, because that's what a great coach does. And we saw what Jared Goff looked like with the Lions before Ben Johnson became the actual OC. We saw him without Sean McVay, with Sean McVay, with another random coach, and then Ben Johnson. So we saw it bad, good, Unless you replace him with the level of a Sean McVay or Ben Johnson, he's going to take a step back. I'm not saying that Jared Goff's going to plummet, that Jared Goff's going to be a disaster. I'm not saying that at all. I think the Lions will still be a very good team and will be legitimately competitive. But I don't think they're going to be like there was a legit fear that offense could strike. When you were facing the Lions offense, you were just like, bro, anything could happen. And you knew Ben Johnson, they were going to bring it. They were going to bring it, that game plan, the intensity, the relentlessness, the intelligence, etc., like you knew that you had to bring it. You had to be ready to ball. You're going to lose a piece of that. How much? No idea. That's what I'm saying. It's a wait and see. Again, the Eagles know this best. The Eagles got a front row seat. 22, awesome team. Let's party. Let's go. 23, oh my God, what the heck is this? This is awful. 24, Super Bowl champions. So things change fast. And this was a Lions team that didn't even make it to a Super Bowl. They only made it to one NFC championship game. So that matters. I think the Rams, if I had to pick right now, and again, we don't know what's going to happen, continue with free agency. We don't know what's going to happen with the draft and whatnot. But to me, it's the Rams, because obviously even the Rams were the closest to beating the Eagles this year, this playoff run, as well as my belief in a Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is going to continue to evolve and get better. I think Devontae will, fit in very nicely. I think that Rams defense, I think the Rams were a significantly better team than people realized they were because of all the injuries that they had last season. And also dealing with Cooper Kupp, who's just clearly not what he once was, et cetera, et cetera. So, I just think that that's what you're going to see. At the end of the day, even when the Eagles beat the Rams, it wasn't because they outcoached them or even outplayed them necessarily. It's because the Eagles were just a better team, straight up. It was just like the Eagles were just a better team. Their players made plays. The Rams players tried their best, but were just not good enough. It's really that straightforward. It wasn't genius play calling and genius this and this, that. No, it was just, this is two teams going toe to toe against one another. And, Sean McVay is a great coach going up against essentially Fangio in that moment. And it was just like, my guys are better than your guys. We're going to punch the ball out. We're going to get that sack, in an insanely important moment in the game, whatever it may be. So to me, I think the Rams are technically the biggest threat. I still think that the Eagles have the upper hand, but like I said, we got to wait and see how this all unfolds. Quite frankly, this conversation is so premature to have right now. I know we have to have it. We have to talk football, we have to talk sports, but like, just how to have this conversation even before the draft, before free agency is really all kind of tied up in a bow. It's like, come on, we don't really know. But I think it's fair. And I don't think, again, this isn't like such a wild hot take, but I think I would probably actually put the Rams, the Commanders, and then the Lions. The one way that I can see the Commanders actually leapfrogging the Rams is if Jaden Daniels takes another really big step forward. And if Jaden Daniels really does prove to be the level quarterback that Mahomes, Lamar, etc. are. And if Dan Quinn gets to really attack the defense in the draft and really build that defense, then I think then they end up being the biggest threat, also by virtue of them just being becoming a better team with a better current quarterback, along with them now playing the Eagles twice, which would then again, I'm looking biggest threat. I'm looking in the playoffs, so it's like it would be the third time, which I've already rehashed. So yeah, should be interesting, but it is pretty funny. Eagles fans need to kind of relish in this, that they get to sit back and have takes like this where it's like, which team is the biggest threat to the Eagles? It's not, can the Eagles beat the 49ers? Can the Eagles beat the Chiefs? Can the Eagles get past the Cowboys in the NFC East? It's, who's the biggest threat to the Eagles? So, nice full circle moment for Eagles fans. Enjoy it. But I encourage you guys to try to think of this question, like, honestly, rather than just be like, no one's a threat to them, no one can beat the Eagles. Like, I would encourage you all to just, like, actually reflect, like, who can genuinely beat the Eagles, who gives them the best run for the money, because it is football, right? We know, anything can happen. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about, which team is the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.